trying to be this emerging leader, it's so important to understand that, yes, there's the task to be done, right? We have to get such and such paper done by this time. We have to get this report filed. We got to get this put on the comptroller's website. But don't ever let that get in the way of making sure that you're making those connections, talking with staff, talking with your residents, understanding what is motivating people, what is in the way, what is causing challenges.
Hello, and welcome to The Clear Voice, brought to you by Clear Career Professionals. I'm your host, James Groom. This week, I am joined by Clear's president, Michael Boese. Michael, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me on, James, and Happy New Year. Welcome to 2026.
Well, thank you. Happy New Year back to you. 2025 is in the books. I know Clear was going full speed ahead at the end of the year. What's going on at the beginning of the year this year for us?
We had some amazing recruitments going on towards the end of the year, and we're going to be wrapping up some of those. So if you haven't had a chance to check those out or apply, I would just encourage our listeners to jump on. We have a couple of new partner cities that we'll be announcing positions for here in the next couple of weeks as well. So it's always great to be able to offer such a great career portal for so many good candidates out there. And just to encourage folks to continue to do that. The other things that are going on is we're going to be adding a couple of new team members to Clear, and those anticipated folks who are really well known in the industry have joined our team, and we're excited to make those announcements in the coming weeks.
It's been fun, especially at the end of the year. We got a lot of recruitments that came in all at once, so it was a fun ride right there, and I'm looking forward to keeping that momentum going.
Absolutely. I'm excited about the podcast today. We've enjoyed getting to know a number of the MPA students that are throughout the state. Quite frequently, one of the best training sessions at the Texas City Manager Conference is seeing the MPA students compete against each other and watching how much they know, and just seeing that collaborative spirit between the different schools in the state. I've had an opportunity to work with the city of Levelland over the past year or two with several different positions. They have a really great city manager there in James Fisher, long history of service throughout the city management profession. But while I was doing that, I was able to get to know one of the workers that attends Texas Tech. We are really excited to have Max Fisher on the program today to talk about his early career journey and really learn about what's going on at Texas Tech and what drew him to the profession.
Max, welcome to the show, and we appreciate your time being on with us.
James, Michael, thank you for having me. And want to make sure we know this. No relation to Mr. Fisher.
Well, that was one of the questions I had. So, it's a small world out there, but just coincidental, I guess.
Yeah. Very fortunate that way.
Before we start diving into your past and what makes you tick and why you're looking at local government, I think we need to clear the air. This podcast will probably release a couple weeks after the beginning of the year, but last night, Texas Tech kind of suffered a major blow against Oregon. Didn't know if you had any thoughts or wanted to give some encouragement to your teammates out there before we get started.
I've been hiding away from ducks recently. It's been a difficult thing. They fly overhead and I just kind of have to run away a little bit. But we made it very far. Farthest that Texas Tech has done in a very long time. And I'm very happy with where our team is. And similarly, the MPA program has come a long way from where it has been. We're great, strong, very many mentors in there, both professors as well as practitioners who are teaching. And then a lot of the students in that program, I recently graduated, but a lot of the students in that program are very interested in city management, and our great mentors have a lot of information on that.
We're excited to talk to you and get a pulse of what's going on at Texas Tech. We were talking just before we got on, and that's one of the questions, and maybe you can answer that, telling us a little bit about your background and really why local government, why public administration is something that you're interested in.
Yeah, so James, I kind of thought I was wanting to do law. I got in a pre-law academy at Texas Tech. This is an undergrad program. It was a summer course. And from that, I got an internship with the Office of Dispute Resolution. They handle mediation, arbitration, some of these alternative dispute resolution techniques. What they had me do, I was basically a project intern. And I helped with mediation. I helped with filing. But they had me go back and review some of these old books they had. They had policies from 2002. And so I went out looked at what the leading data was saying, what some of the leading research was saying, what are other dispute resolution centers doing, and I revised a lot of these policies. And what I discovered there was that law's impact is very deep, but it's very narrow. Policies, redrafting, rewriting, reviewing these, the impact may not be as in depth, but it's very broad. When you're writing policies, when you're working on management, looking at how you're administrating a program, the impact may be less for any one individual, but the impact is so broad, and in total, you're impacting thousands of people.
Yeah, I always have had that discussion. I have to write policy for the police department, and of course, there's city policy that goes on top of that. And I don't think everybody always understands how difficult that is to write a policy for an entire organization or even a department covering every situation that may ever exist. Very difficult to write a good policy that's specific enough, that has everything that you need in it, and then broad enough that it covers all kinds of situations that you may not even have experienced.
Absolutely. The other thing too with policy, you may have been fixing to mention it, but you rarely see its impact. In fact, everything I did in my internship, I don't think I saw any real impact of that until after I was done working for them. I looked at what they're doing recently and saw some of the things that I wrote, some of the policy suggestions that I made, and I'm finally seeing the impact of that. And that's, 2 years, almost 3 years out of working for that office.
It's hard to get that instant gratification sometimes in this job. So you're working at Levelland or you're interning at Levelland now?
So I initially began an internship in the city of Levelland, April 28th. You mentioned the Texas City Management Association Bowl, the Intercollegiate Bowl. And so part of that was we had a project on AI. I interviewed a lot of city managers, talked with some of them, drove all the way down to Levelland. It's about a 40-minute drive, wasn't terrible. And interviewed with James to understand how Levelland could implement AI, what that would look like for the project. And he invited us to the West Texas City Management Association meeting. That's a regional meeting of the TCMA. So I went to that, and they mentioned they may be looking for an intern. I said I was looking for an internship. I really wanted that position. And what I did was I looked over the city's budget and did a budget analysis. I spent probably 3 or 4 days in a row assessing all the values, looking back 3 or 4 years, running some forecasts, looking at this stands out to me, here's why. This is something we may want to look into. And so I presented this item during the interview. We had some really great discussion. And fortunately, I think it was October 24th or so, was promoted or offered the position of the assistant to the city manager's office. So I've been working full time for about 3 months.
Awesome. How much longer do you have? You haven't graduated yet, I'm assuming.
So I actually did finish my MPA program this December. I graduated December 11th, I believe. And then I actually enrolled in the Certified Public Manager Credential course at Texas Tech. So that's going to start January 30th is the first course. Graduation is 2027, I think around June or July. I have the theoretical background with the MPA, and I'm getting that professional experience now. Only 22 years old and not very much professional experience. And so getting into that practitioner course to really learn more, understand what other cities are doing, and build that network. LinkedIn's great and you can get some networking through it, but in-person networking is also critical. And that's what I'm looking for in the CPM program.
Michael and I both completed CPM, and I don't know about him, but I know that was exactly what you're talking about. Is it takes it out of that theoretical and it's more practical, and then the networking. You're right; it's amazing. Anybody who's on the fence about whether they should jump into the CPM program, I learned a whole lot about local government, and I'd been in local government almost 20 years when I started it. Amazing program.
Yeah, and James, I wanted to jump in. I think I ran into Max down in Tampa Bay at the ICMA conference. I was impressed because he was actually talking with another one of our former guests on the program, Austin Blees, I guess, AKA, what is he, the Grant Whisperer. I think it's really important. And Max, if you can talk a little bit about this, but it's really constructive to get to know those city managers who've been in the business and then learn from them. I know that you understand the importance of mentorship and really just trying to learn the skill sets that many city managers are willing to give if approached and asked to either share their insight or just even do more of a formal mentoring with people like yourself who, really are set up to be very successful in the field, given the right, direction and assistance.
Yeah, I mean, you nailed it on the head. It's kind of difficult to learn and realize, but people in this field want to help you. And you can approach them, ask for help, ask for understanding, and they're going to provide it. Going back just a little bit again, the TCMA Intercollegiate Bowl, that was also a course. Part of it was we had to connect with city managers, and that was something that I really learned then. Everybody in this field is out to help each other. And that's what's so difficult to explain to people in the private sector. They're constantly used to everything being cutthroat. Everybody wants to tear everybody down. In the public sector, if my friend gets the job, I'm going to be a little disappointed. But I'm ultimately going to be happy because that's the better pick, that's the better fit for the community, and that's ultimately for the public interest. Again, going back to mentorship as well, Austin's a great mentor. I've never really been mentored under him, but he's constantly on LinkedIn. He's posting his wins. He's posting what he's doing. We don't really think about that as mentorship, but it really is. People in the MPA program are seeing what everybody's doing. We're seeing the successes, we're seeing the failures, we're seeing the challenges. And so often we're so negative, we're not willing to share our story. But it's crucial that we get to the people and the stories behind local governments because that's where everything happens, that's where the impact is. And that's ultimately where the next generation is going to be motivated by.
Congratulations on graduating and the new job too. So that's amazing. Has it been working out the way that you expected? Have you had any surprises in joining the workforce? Anything you can say that won't get you in trouble, I guess?
One of the things is that the MPA program provides how to think about things. It doesn't necessarily, I don't know how to say this well, but it provides a way of thinking rather than information. And so when I entered working for the city of Levelland, both first as an intern and then now full-time, there was a little bit of learning what that looks like, learning what it means to be a public servant and to work in a smaller municipality. And then a little background on the city of Levelland, it's lower socioeconomic status overall, slightly lower educational attainment. And so there's unique challenges with a community like that. And I'll be honest, I was a little bit disappointed by how antiquated things were. And there's a couple of ways you can take that. You can let that either burn or bore you out, or you can say, okay, this is something we can improve on. What are we going to do to improve on it? And what are the steps we're taking so that we're not just accepting mediocrity, but we're working towards excellence?
I'd much rather come into a place that maybe behind the times and help them speed up than join some place that's high speed and everything's working right, and trying to figure out how to take the next step there is sometimes very difficult. When you've got a lot of low-hanging fruit, it's definitely nice to be able to go in there and fix some of those things and improve things. Just coming out of grad school, can you tell us a little bit about your colleagues that are still graduating or just graduated? One of the things that we always need is, Mike's talked about it, there's a leadership vacuum in some positions in some places. Are we getting good reinforcements coming in that's going to help supplement that need?
So one of the challenges with the MPA program is that it's not a city management course, strictly speaking, right? The recent cohort or actually the last two recent cohorts have really had a nonprofit focus. The cohort I came in was very city management focused. And one of the challenges is we need the practitioners in teaching. So we're very fortunate. Suzette Williams, city manager of Idalou, was teaching the city management course this semester, as in the winter semester. And I was very fortunate to be in that course and learn a lot. There was a lot of applied theories. This is the situation you may be dealing with. These are the political considerations that you may run into. While you want to go from 1 to 10, maybe you got to go from 1 to 3, 3 to 5, stay at 5 for a little bit, and then work your way up. You can't always do everything immediately. You have to consider implications politically. You have to consider social implications. These policies, what we do, ultimately impact the organization, sure, but the residents of the community. And they may not always be able to match your fast pace. They may not always be able to understand why this shift is occurring. And so it's very important to communicate. Now, going back to this pipeline, Texas Tech MPA program is an absolutely fantastic program. I've been very fortunate also to interact with A&M's program, University of North Texas's program, and all of these three are putting out fantastic talent. Our challenge is connecting these MPA students who have the theory, but really need the connection with the practitioner. And what that looks like is the West Texas City Management Association, that's Region 2 of Texas City Management Association, is inviting MPA students to come to the monthly or bi-monthly events. it looks like a clerk association inviting MPA students. We have Alan Boese, and he invites the MPA students to some of his trainings. And so getting that connection of the practitioners into and with the students is really critical for this pipeline.
Being that Clear's primary focus is on recruitment, it's always great for us to look at the MPA students that are out there and see how we can be more actively involved in your success. We're currently leading a city manager recruitment for Lamesa. We've done a lot of work up in your region. We currently have a finance director position posted for Dumas, and we've worked with Dalhart and Abernathy, and we really love going out to West Texas and doing the recruitments for them. It is more challenging to maybe draw folks in who aren't from West Texas. And so what we've seen is often there's opportunity for people who are younger in the profession to sometimes take on greater and greater leadership roles because they're not necessarily competing like you would be in a major metropolitan area of people who have 10 and 15 and 20 years of experience. We've seen some people be very successful at that. We have a young city manager who was hired out in Merkel, Texas, Matthew Hitt, and he's doing a great job. And really proud that we could associate with Matthew as he went through that process. And the city is just so happy to have somebody with his skill set. But he is a younger practitioner in the field. I want to kind of ask you, as you're looking at the landscape and seeing where your career trajectory can go, how is it that people in the field can really be more active with you and be more invested in your success or your classmates' success as kind of we travel down the road together?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. And I don't have a great answer to it, to be completely honest. I do think, really, though, we need to know you exist. And, Clear Career Professional does a great job. We've talked about some of the work that y'all do before in the MPA program. It's a unique kind of role that y'all play. And especially in West Texas, you mentioned the challenges. There's unfortunately a stigma in this area that West Texas is the place where careers go to die. It's really unfortunate. I know that my own boss, James, has had people look at him differently now that he works out here in West Texas from the Metroplex. Is he just going out there to retire? What's he doing there? Shouldn't he be somewhere? Couldn't he be in Dallas if he wanted to? And I'm sure he absolutely could be in Dallas. One of the things for the MPA students, recent graduates as well, is ICMA has some resources, TCMA has some resources on what it looks like to be successful in the field and kind of what the field looks like. You only get so much of that. You learn it in the position as well. But another source of mentorship, and it could be, written, this type of content that you produce has been fantastic. It really provides a insider understanding of what the field looks like. And so I'm very fortunate for that as well. And certain other podcasts have done that as well, where they show this is what the field looks like. These are the people in it. These are the stories that they've gone through. These are some of the considerations and recommendations they would make now, either outside of it, in a new position. It's very challenging. For my own background, I knew very little about city management. It's not my parents' line. My father was an engineer. My mother was an artist. So you get the humanities here. I didn't really know what a city manager was until about 2 years ago, and really not even until about a year ago did I get a better understanding of it. Laying out what the profession looks like, laying out some of the structure behind it. What are the skills we need to know? What are the skills that you're seeing are important for being hired? I know Excel is so important now, ability for it to quickly analyze data and then provide graphs and charts. I'm sure that you're seeing a lot more with AI recently and the importance of that and helping standardize, clarify speech, and just so many other aspects it has. A lot of the young career professionals are going into this and they don't really know what it looks like, but they're excited to serve. And so to provide some structure to that service and to provide some understanding to what that looks like and to provide that ladder or even an image of a ladder is so crucial.
Yeah. Max, I think you've made a really good point when you're talking about technology and the new generation coming into the field. For our folks who are looking at West Texas, what I've seen is going out there and leading several recruitments is that's probably the pioneer of where Texas is headed. When you look at the landscape, I think people have a misnomer that, it's not beautiful, but when you're driving in and you see some of the amazing landscape features that exist in West Texas, from deep canyons to mountains to just beautiful skies, there's so much that's going on out there. And, when I talk to folks in the economic development profession, There's so much going on. And if I were in economic development, I would say that, West Texas is probably the place to be because you're not competing with the Houstons and Dallas and Austins that have so much of their apparatus already set up. You can really get out there and kind of lead that pioneer. One thing I really want to talk with you about is as you're going through the program and your generation is going to be much more adept at working with technology to influence how service is delivered to the citizens. I just want to encourage you and kind of see what does the landscape look like as far as that human interaction. Here at Clear Career Professionals, James and I have talked about this on several podcasts. We try to use a lot of technology where we can, but we never want to lose that personal touch where we can just sit down. And I know I've had this chance to do this with you where I get to know you as a person and value you as a person. So frequently, I don't know that we do a good job of leaders at explaining how important that one-on-one connection is. It could be with your coworkers, or it could be with somebody who is in your city and just needs help. And how we deliver that message to them can make all the difference in the world. How do you see that shaping your future and kind of what you're going to be doing in the profession?
One-on-one or even just group conversations in person will never go away because no matter how hard you try, no matter how great you are at texting, no matter how great you are at calling, there is something very special about us going together and talking. And I'm very, very glad to be here. Very glad to talk with you, James. Very glad to talk with you, Michael. And this is nice. But what was a lot more impactful, Michael, was when I was just talking with you in Tampa. This generation is in a weird quagmire because we don't really like the phone call. A lot of my generation doesn't really like the phone call. Typically prefer the text. We don't really even like the email anymore. I'm kind of fond of the email. It's like writing a letter. But in person and communicating, it may waste 5 minutes. It may waste 10 minutes, right? Maybe you can get across whatever it is that you need to get across. But if you don't take that 5 or 10 minutes to walk over, to go see the person in person and talk with them, you may not find out about what's going on. Maybe they had a family member pass away recently and they just need somebody to talk with. And they're not going to text with you. Maybe they don't really know you very well. But that you're there, that you talk with them, and even if they don't share it, even if they don't talk to you about it, but you're there and you talk with them, it's going to make their day. Trying to be this emerging leader, it's so important to understand that, yes, there's the task to be done, right? We have to get such and such paper done by this time. We have to get this report filed. We got to get this put on the comptroller's website. But don't ever let that get in the way of making sure that you're making those connections, talking with staff, talking with your residents, understanding what is motivating people, what is in the way, what is causing challenges. One of the things with going in person is maybe the employee is not quite pulling their weight. You're expecting them to do more. And you find out that you go in person, they've been doing a process in a way that you don't really think makes sense. So you can show, okay, you're entering this into here, and then you're entering into this other form, and then you're entering this into this other form. Is there a way that we can combine these all into one and save you 10 minutes per form? And that adds up. And so in person is not just an opportunity to communicate, it's an opportunity for so much more. And I try to stress that to my peers because it's so easy just to get into the texting mode or just to type out that email. But you're missing a vital part of communication. When you're not there, when you're not seeing what they're seeing, it's not the same.
James, I know you have a thought there too, and I don't want to steal it, but it's so important. I know you and Max were talking about policy and process early on and how important that is. But frequently when we do org reviews, the person who is making the policy and or process and or writing those frequently don't take the time to do exactly what Max is talking about to understand what that policy or process is going to be doing for the folks who matter most, which are the people out serving the citizens directly or even in the private sector, serving your customer directly. I love what you're saying, Max. I'll sometimes look at process and I know how important it is, but it sometimes can get in the way of the people who are actually doing the work. And unless you have that direct connection of when we make this decision, how is it going to impact those folks? And how do we make their lives better to where they are more able to serve and do the things that they got in the career to do? I just love what you're talking about as far as you continue to grow as a leader, never lose that, never lose the ability to leave whatever office you're in and go and, ride with the people who are doing the work, or go work with the public works guy for 2 or 3 hours and go, hey, how are our processes impacting you? Because that conversation can make all the difference in the bigger picture of how does our policy and process really empower our folks.
Yeah, I was going to say my father-in-law was an industrial engineer and worked for Levi's for a long time. And like a stereotypical engineer, he wasn't exactly a people person. He'd be the first one that would tell you that when there was a problem on the line, he wasn't just looking at the reports coming in and trying to fix the problem. He was down on the factory floor with the line level employees because they knew what was wrong. They couldn't fix it necessarily, but they could tell him what the problem was, and they engineered a solution to fix it. It's always about the people, right, Michael?
I think the people are the most important component, which is easy to forget. Go talk to a city manager in July and August as a budget is coming due and going, hey, how are your people doing? Because it's just a matter of how much time can you break off of doing some of those things to actually spend with your folks. What I see in a lot of successful city managers that have mentored me, and I just continue to try to absorb what they're doing, is they do make time for that. It almost seems like they have 26 hours in a day. They manage their schedule in such a way where they do get the important things done, but they never lose that core focus of service and just building those relationships.
Yeah. And Max, you kind of touched on this earlier when we were talking about how do we connect with the younger generation? How do we get them in? As we've done this, one of the things that has been brought up, and I think bears repeating if it really is a thing, and you kind of touched on it. You said that you didn't even know about city management jobs for a long time. It lends itself to my thought that we need to not just connect at the college level with interns because it may be too late at that point in time. What can cities across the country do to better open those opportunities up or bring them to light for students that are in high school even?
I love how you point that out. You're absolutely right. The only reason I ended up in this career field was because I found out that I could graduate earlier than I thought. I was going to be 3 years, and undergrad it was 2 years, switched, and that really altered what I wanted to do. And, the experience at the Office of Dispute Resolution, where I really did find that interest in policy. And policy and city management, they kind of overlap. And as I went through the MPA program, I did really find out that city management is what I want to do. So many people would be so great in this field, or a department head, finance director, whatever it may be, public works director. They'd be so fantastic in these fields, but they have no idea they exist. And one of the things, and I don't like to point this out, but it's important. Our civics education has completely deteriorated. Nobody knows what a local government is. Nobody knows what a city is. And I'm including myself in that. I grew up in Spring, Texas. That's an unincorporated area. I thought the entire time I grew up in a city. I had no idea we didn't have a mayor. I had no idea what that even really meant. I had no idea how counties functioned. I knew a little bit about the state, and then I thought I knew a little bit about the federal government. So kind of connecting, and I don't know what this looks like, but maybe cities need to start volunteering with their middle schools and high schools and partnering with them and, bringing in the city manager, discussing what city management is, bringing in the public works director, discuss what trash pickup is. We waste so much food and items. There are people that have to take care of our problems. We don't think about it when we overfill, a trash can, or when we just constantly flush the toilet, but there are people that have to make sure that those things work. Connecting at the educational level, middle school, high school, but even elementary school would be great. Letting students know, and really kids knowing, that there is a profession that deals with the local area. These are some of the things that they do. This is why they do them. This is why it's important. Local government is a missional work. It's a calling, really. We're not doing this by and large to get very wealthy or to make a name for ourselves. It's to serve others. So many people want to serve others, and they think I can do that by being a doctor. Maybe I can do that being a lawyer. Maybe I'll do that by being, a senator. But they don't realize that they're perhaps far more tailored to locally. And so I think opening up apprenticeships, having a water operator in training, wastewater operator in training, sanitation in training, but not even just that, accountant in training. How great would it be to take a high school student who has some math ability saying this is accounting. This is accounting for governments. Give them some background of the GASB. Tell them this is what your work looks like, and give them that introduction. It would improve them educationally, right? They would get a honing of the mathematics skills and understanding of how those mathematical principles can be applied, and introducing them to local government. And for whatever reason, this profession and perhaps educationally, we have failed to do that.
Yeah, I always look at police, although we're having recruiting issues ourselves, and that's for a variety of reasons. I don't know what Michael's impetus was, but I really wanted to be a cop because I met a cop when I was a little kid, and he let me play with the siren in his car. I mean, he's just a cool guy. It's things like that. Like, how do you get your public works involved? Sometimes schools have like touch a truck type things. And man, like I've seen public works is the most popular people out there right in front of the fire department, usually because they have tractors and all kinds of cool stuff for little kids. It's finding those opportunities, I think, are important, like you said.
It's fortunate here clearly where we have, James Hopper with his extensive background in education. And I know we've talked a lot with him about how can we be more impactful at the different levels of service. But I think it is a very personal decision for a lot of folks who serve. And, how do we get in and have that impact? But Max, you're right. Like when we do recruitments, the areas that are really tough to find people are the engineers, the water and wastewater folks, the finance directors. I know police and fire will talk about recruiting issues. And well, that's true. But I always try to tell police and fire leaders is you're not the only one suffering that. Your public works director is also really, really struggling. Frequently, cities aren't willing to pay those folks maybe what they're willing to pay a firefighter or a police officer because those are more front facing and interacting with the public, good advocacy for some of their positions. But, how do we get our high school folks like you're talking about to understand that you can have a very good living? But more importantly, it's not about a money issue. It's about how do I get in and have a purposeful life? How do I get in and feel like that when I'm going to work, Monday and, what I'm doing is actually impacting somebody that's going to make their life better. And those are the intrinsic rewards that we really need to talk to our younger folks more and more about, because I've known a lot of people who have been very successful and, they make a lot of money, but sometimes they don't feel like they have the purpose that is bringing them joy every single morning. So thank you for saying that. And just the importance of how do we get out and really communicate that to our team and just empower our employees. Because I think the more that our employees in cities feel like they're having that impact, they go out and share those things with more and more people. And just, my thought process is there's not one thing a leader can do other than try to impact, his larger subculture with his coworkers and get them to go out and have more and more conversations to where we are talking about the opportunities for public service out there.
Well, Max, I saved the hard question for last, so get ready. If you're looking at your career 5 to 10 years out from where you are today, just starting out, where do you hope to see yourself? And more importantly, how will you measure that you're successful?
James, love the hard question. I'd love to say the 10-year goal is to be a city manager. The 5-year goal, I'd be happy if I'm still in the same position. The stretch goal for 5 years is to be an assistant city manager. What do I want to do professionally or in terms of projects? Recently, we've been doing a fire salary studying and assessment and then budget impact. My goal is to have accomplished 5 more cross-departmental, multi-iteration, in-person projects that require not just working in City Hall, but getting out with these other departments that are outside of City Hall, understanding what operations, what challenges they have, what grievances they have, and putting together something that not only benefits that department, but the organization as a whole, and understanding how this may have been negatively impacting our performance. Understanding that the reason that we need X, Y, or Z is to do this. And if we can do this, we'll be able to save $100,000, let's say, over the next 5 years. One of the small things was at the pool we were talking about sandblasting the paint. And that's something you don't really think much about, but sandblasting the paint, stripping it off, repainting could save, I think it was $50,000 for 5 or 7 years, one of those, for the filter system, because the paint chips off naturally. Having a more recent paint that's a higher quality would really help preserve that system. And I would have known none of this. This came out of through conversations and talking. And so really making sure, we mentioned it earlier, being that leader who goes out there, who talks, communicates, understands, and is willing to be not the expert in the room. When you're young, that's really easy. It's so easy to not be the professional. I've already feel that impetus to become the expert in the room. And I really hope, I'll probably see about listening back to this in 3 or 5 years. And I hope that I'll hearken to these words now. You aren't the expert, and you're a fool if you think you are. You have these department heads that are professionals. They understand their field, and you need to weigh it, right? You can't always do what all the departments want all the time. That's not how a city works. But you should understand that they are the professionals. They're offering great understanding, great experience, great recommendations, and you need to weigh those. So really, my 5 or 10-year goal, sure, become an assistant city manager, become the city manager, but it's really to continue to do great projects and to understand that my role is to manage those projects, to direct and to write, but is to take in the feedback from the professionals, understand the trade-offs, understand what it is that they've been going through. Maybe they haven't had the capital financing they've been needing for 5 years. They've been going without it for 5, 6, 7 years because whatever reason it may be, the frequent one, they're not fire and PD. And so getting behind and supporting those people who often feel like they're unheard and underfunded, with being able to communicate both to the department and then the organization as a whole, and then to the residents, why these changes are necessary.
Well, Max, we're getting close to wrapping up, and Michael may have some more advice for you, but I think you're doing everything that I would know that you would need to do between the academics and joining the CPM program. And I think your heart for service and really getting in there and getting your hands dirty inside of each department and trying to get a grasp of it. You'll never be the subject matter expert, but getting to know a little bit firsthand information is going to help you in your career. Michael, you have anything else before we wrap up? Any advice or anything we missed?
No, not really. I think that, Max, it has been impressive, and we're really happy and fortunate that he's able to join us today. And certainly, we look forward to the next 5 to 10 years so we can recruit you to some of these roles that we have out there. And so thank you for being a part of what is Clear Career Professionals. At our heart, we love continuing to serve, even though many of us are retired and working for Clear now. Our heart is still in impacting communities and really connecting folks like yourself to those communities that you can empower the staff and really make the quality of life better for the people who are living there. As you continue on, Max, I think it's great to keep that humble spirit. Frequently, what a city manager does, or even a leader, is act like a conductor, connecting the people who know the job best and putting them in the right chair and making sure you're making that symphony sound the most amazing that you possibly can for your community. I would just encourage you to never shy away from leadership. Sometimes I see people that are in the younger generation shying away and not maybe putting in for these positions because they don't have the 5 and 10 and 20 years. But certainly I would just encourage you, when you feel like you're ready to serve more, then apply for those positions, even if you don't have all the experience that a city may want. You never know what they may consider and how God might align you with that particular community. But I always tell folks, in your position is when you develop the skill sets and you feel like you have the depth to serve your culture and your city and the people you work with more, please apply for those positions. Get out there and continue to try to lead. Don't let your age or your experience make you shy away from where you feel like you can have an impact.
And Michael, we've, previously, as we talked about, we've had A&M Bush School on, and now we've had Max from Texas Tech. Please don't get us in trouble. We're going to need to find, I'm sure, UT and UNT students. We aren't biased that much. There's other students out there that want to come on and have conversation. Please let us know. We'll even take the UT guys.
Yeah. And, there is an exciting thing that we're doing with the city of Murphy, where we actually have an intern that is serving with the city of Murphy on a very unique program that we've worked out with them that is attending UNT and also working as an intern, but she is actually under contract with Clear to do that. And so we're happy that we're able to figure out a way to get interns into communities and make sure that there are folks growing that. So I'd love to have her on and talk about what's going on at UNT. And then, I think 2 of our vice presidents, Kent and Kelly, would be remiss if we didn't talk about UTSA. They're very passionate about the programs down there, and both of them have worked with the MPA students at the Collegiate Bowl at the TCMA conference. And so I'm sure that we can get some folks from UTSA and maybe that UMass area down there. There are so many, good programs, but we want to encourage our MPA students to look to Clear, because we do want to encourage you to apply for these positions. And we do have these conversations with all of our candidates. People will call me all the time and go, "Hey, can you give me some career advice?" While I may not know everything, and I fully admit that it's great to reach out to a multitude of folks when you're applying for a position, I'm happy to offer whatever input or experience that I can put into your career forward. We're always happy to do that. But really thankful for Max joining us today on the program.
Yeah, definitely. And Max, we try to always let our guests have the last word. Anything that we didn't cover that you think is important, or any advice for all the great leaders or the great students that are aspiring to be leaders in our nation, that are trying to navigate the best path forward for their communities?
Well, I'll say so grateful to be on. This was a fantastic time. Really appreciate the time both of y'all took to have this happen. Really appreciate the work that y'all are doing to connect with college student MPA programs. Maybe even undergrads would be a great place to connect as well. I would be remiss if I didn't mention 2025 Texas State Management Association. Texas Tech did win the bowl. There is a 2026 bowl, and we're hopeful to win again. But I will try to be there to see what happens. I'm not going to be able to compete, but that'll be very exciting. That will be a great bowl, because that is the 100th year for TCMA. If you're thinking about doing the Collegiate Bowl or not, really try to get your program to do that. We want everybody to compete. We had, I think, 5 teams competing for the 99th year. If we could have 10, 11, that'd be fantastic. That would really be great. And then, for other MPA students, those who are considering this field, just 2 small things. 1, get on LinkedIn. A lot of the opportunities that I've been fortunate enough to be extended have not necessarily come because I'm some great student or some fantastic person or anything. It's just, you need to be telling your story. If you're not going to be telling your story, nobody is. And so you need to be able to advocate for yourself and really put yourself out there. It's going to feel uncomfortable. Don't let that get in the way of shining the light on others, but you do have to tell your own story. It's not going to happen for you. And the other thing too is, it's so easy to just kind of ignore the schoolwork and do the minimum. These programs are designed to formalize your education, and it's frustrating. I get it. It doesn't feel like it's informing things, but it informs the way you think. That's so difficult to realize, but once you're out of that program, you start realizing what it is you learned. And so don't be discouraged because your second semester, third semester, and you feel like you're not learning anything. You are. Go with it. Take the time. Do the readings. It's worth it, even when it doesn't feel like it is.
Thank you for those words. Michael, if we want to go down and cover that bowl for the Clear Voice, just let me know. We'll hit a road show. Max, thank you for joining us today. Thank you to all the listeners for tuning in. Be sure to follow Clear on LinkedIn and visit our website to see the latest career opportunities and learn more about our services. And we will catch you next time.